Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. Thanks for staying with us here on Fox Local, as well as our Fox 6 YouTube page. Hope you all are having a really great day so far. It's hazy here in southeast Wisconsin.
It is, yeah, quite a bit of that smoke has started to work its way a little farther to the surface levels. I know you're going to give an update on that in a bit, but here are some of our area cameras just to give you an idea. That was, of course, the American Family Field, and then from our Estabrook Park Tower cam, looking out at some of that smoke just kind of laying across the city. And yeah, it's really kind of gotten a little thicker in the last several hours. There's the airport, and again, not looking great there. I think we might have one more stop to make. Do we have one more camera? Spin the big wheel of cams. Nope, just the one.
What do we got?
All right, I think we got them all.
It's not severe weather, though.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
That's actually one of the best ones right now, our City Hall view there.
City Center.
Yeah, so that's something we're going to watch. We're going to keep an eye on air quality. Of course, Steph will update you on the big picture in just a couple of minutes here. Lots of things going on. The last several days, as a nation, we've been pretty active weather-wise. We're going to go to Texas first. These are actually, this video taken by Mark Sudduth at Supercell that passed this past weekend rather, in Clarendon, Texas. Just give this hail a listen as well.
That's one way to do it.
I was going to say, that's a whole new way to use the fishing net right there to safely catch some hail. And again, that was in Paducah, Texas, and you could just hear it just banging off of the truck or vehicle, whatever they were in, for sure. Quite the intense system there. And then a news station in Abilene, Texas experienced major damage from severe weather on Sunday night. There's a tornado that struck the KTXS TV station, destroying their tower, ripped the roof off the building, caused the garage to cave in. Thankfully, no injuries. But this is the second time in just a few months that a television station has been hit by a tornado. Remember our Orlando affiliate had one go through the parking lot. That was just a few months ago.
And to see the roof off of the actual studio, I think it'll filter through some of these pictures. It might be the next one. That is just mind-boggling, because that's, you know, where we, there you go, that one right there.
That's where we
literally
would be
do the news.
Doing the news or whatever, and then had the roof torn right off. There's their Doppler ball, obviously, Abilene, Texas, again, pretty intense for sure. And then we go to Michigan.
Yeah, a weather alert in Michigan, hail plummeting parts of the Grand Rapids metropolitan area yesterday. The National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for that area, and this footage was captured by one resident who said that the hail, oh my goodness, came fast and heavy in Sparta. So the NWS issued a severe thunderstorm warning for the city, forecasting hail and winds up to 60 miles per hour. So it may not have been the biggest hail, but we know that we see this all the time, even if it's that very small pea-sized hail, but a lot of it. We've even seen situations where plows and trucks have to push a lot of that hail out when there's so much of it.
And clear everything out. So yeah, some incredibly intense storms for sure. We've been dealing with that smoke. So let's turn our attention back here to home and take a look at our big picture.
Yeah, and we are going to start with that wildfire smoke. There's not a whole lot of severe weather or active weather at the moment across the U.S. We'll take a look at our national radar here in just a bit, but I think one of the biggest stories, as it has been for weeks now, remains the wildfire smoke. Now, this is at our upper levels, middle and upper levels, but notice where all of that red is, including in southern Wisconsin. That's where some of the thickest wildfire smoke has set up, and it is starting to translate down to the surface too, as you're seeing some of these lighter greens, in addition, of course, to some of the blues. But as these colors get a little darker, it does mean that the wildfire smoke is a little bit thicker. So we are starting to see it here at the surface. And as we looked at some of those area tower cams earlier in the show, right off the top, you could tell that there was a noticeable haze. So unfortunately, that is going to stick around throughout the remainder of the day today. Air quality here locally and across much of the state is either good or moderate. Where you're not seeing a color, that's indicating where air quality is good, so near the Green Bay area. But the rest of the state, it is in that moderate category and just a small portion out west under that unhealthy for sensitive groups category. We do not have an air quality alert at the moment. We'll continue to watch how this wildfire smoke moves towards the surface as the day goes on, but just know right now, so far so good, but something we might have to look out for later on this afternoon. We also, across the state of Wisconsin, we stick out, don't we, on satellite? We've got some cloud cover pushing through right now, and that's actually thanks to a storm system that's east of us. This is on the back side of it. It's going to thin out as the day goes on, so eventually statewide we are going to see some sunshine. And looking out towards the west, it is quiet across much of the central U.S. In fact, the entire country as a whole, it's a lot more active out east, but not terribly, extreme weather as we talked about earlier. Out west, there's not much going on. We have a couple of high pressure systems. The heat is really building out west too, but most of the rain and thunderstorm activity is right along the east coast, New England states down to Florida, and then the Gulf Coast. You can still see some scattered showers as well as thunderstorms with some of those stationary boundaries not really moving. So keeping some of the rain in. They dealt with it yesterday too. It will start to move eastward though throughout the remainder of today. Back closer to home, these clouds should thin out throughout the afternoon, so becoming partly sunny and then clearing out overnight tonight, and that is going to bring in plenty of sunshine for most of us throughout the day on Wednesday. We'll see a couple of clouds building late in the day, especially up towards the north, but our rain chance for most of the state is going to hold off until late Wednesday night, certainly in southern parts of the state. You can see northern and central parts of Wisconsin may start to see some before 11 p.m. The rest of us, it may not be until our early morning hours on Thursday, but regardless, we do have the chance for some thunderstorms later Wednesday night into about the first half of Thursday across our area. We're going to dry out Thursday afternoon, but then rain actually returns throughout the day Friday and into potentially at least Saturday morning. So we do have a more active couple of days here, especially late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Friday, models aren't really in good agreement right now. It could be kind of an on and off all day type of rain, or we may see some in the morning, some in the evening with a little bit of dry time. But regardless, plan on rain throughout the day Friday and through at least the first half of Saturday. The good news is that Sunday is trending dry, so for dads celebrating Father's Day, it looks right now, there you go, shout out Rob. We'll continue to give you a shout out in the days ahead. It looks pretty good. Now temperatures are really heating up out west. Of course, southwestern states going to see those triple digits, not terribly uncommon. But look at the Dakotas, look at Denver. We're looking at 80s and 90s for high temperatures today. That's all going to swing eastward tomorrow. So even here in the Milwaukee area, we are going to see 80s for high temperatures on Wednesday. Extreme heat for the Pacific Northwest. I don't think we say that too often, right? Heat advisory for parts of Washington State as well as northern Oregon, parts of Idaho, and then down towards the south. We talked about this a few weeks ago. There was a pocket of some really high temperatures in these areas for parts of California. That's where a heat warning, an excessive heat warning, is in effect. We're looking at 70s today. Once we see these clouds moving out, we will heat up nicely. Look at the 80s out west though, so that's again what we're going to see move back into our area for tomorrow. So high temperatures really just for one day only, climb above average, or well above average I should say, in the 80s. Then with those rain chances Thursday, Friday, we cool to 60s, so a bit of a roller coaster ride here. Over the weekend we climb again, but we'll also have a lake breeze settling in, so that will also keep temperatures just a little bit cooler heading on into Father's Day weekend. But overall still looking good today, looking good tomorrow. We'll just be watching those rain chances across the state Wednesday night and Thursday.
And that lake breeze tomorrow, if the models verify it, it's a pretty abrupt
Oh, it is late in the day,
It's
yes.
going to go from 80s to 60s in a pretty short period of time if you're right by the lake. But it's okay, because you still get to the 80s.
Exactly, 80s and then relief. It's one of the good things about the lake in the summer.
It'll be around just long enough for you to be like, it's too much. And then the lake will come in.
Exactly.
And it'll help you out. And no matter what, we can't complain. We just talked about all that severe weather off the top. And I want to take you back in time now to one of the most severe events we have had in Wisconsin. In fact, a plaque is now honoring the victims of one of the biggest tornadoes in state history. Memorial Park in Barneveld is open now after celebrating its grand opening. That's about 30 miles west of Madison. So the plaque honors the 9 people who died in the 1984 F5 tornado. So area leaders say they want visitors and people to understand the park's history.
I think it's very important to remember our history and why this park is here, and for those older residents and for new community members to understand our history about what things are and why that's here.
Memorial Park was dedicated 2 years after the F5 tornado tore through the town. And we were talking about this last night as well.
Yeah, our chief meteorologist, Tom Walks, actually talked more about this event during our Fox 6 News at 5 o'clock. Take a listen.
This was an F5 tornado that hit early on June 8th, 1984. It was an F5 that's the strongest on the scale. It destroyed 90% of Barneveld. As you heard a moment ago, 9 fatalities, 200 injuries. This tornado was on the ground for 59 minutes in the middle of the night, and it went 36 miles. It blew newly built homes completely off of their foundation. And again, think about that. In the middle of the night, about 1 o'clock in the morning. Very scary situation back in 1984. Again, these types of tornadoes are rare, right? They don't happen very often. We can talk about West Bend in 1981. You can talk about Oakfield, July 18th of 1996. Those were some particularly strong tornadoes. They don't happen all that often when you're getting into these higher ratings and higher damage accounts. But again, when they happen, they are life-changing. And even when we're talking a few weeks ago of the 6 tornadoes that touched down in Dodge County, the EF0s to EF2s that hit in Dodge County, those are life-changing. If you ask anyone in the Mayville area or in the Juneau area about those tornadoes from a few weeks ago, that is a life-altering event. And that is why we are constantly harping about having a severe weather plan, making sure you have alerts turned on your cell phone and all of that. Because if you know where to go and you have a shelter to go to, that hopefully takes a lot of the fear out of it. Preparation can really take the fear out of that. So.
Yeah, great coverage there, of course, looking back on this date in 1984, and you may have noted it was an F5. Now we use the enhanced Fujita scale, but of course that storm predated that updated Fujita scale for tornadoes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen the damage pictures year after year. You know, this is a really memorable moment across the state of Wisconsin when it comes to tornadoes and severe weather in general. So we know just how strong and how impactful that system was as it rolled through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, stick around. We have got more Wisconsin weather experts to share with you coming up in just a very few minutes. There's a live look at our somewhat smoky downtown. Doesn't look too bad. We'll be right back here on Fox Local.
back, everybody, to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. So we talked a lot about ongoing severe weather, the wildfire smoke, what we're dealing with today. But tomorrow, we're going to have heat in the area, and maybe you want to go for a dip.
That's a lot of people are going to think of that. And if you got your pool open on Memorial Day, then you do you. But if you're thinking you'll take a dip in Lake Michigan, don't do that. Chief Meteorologist Tom Walks explains.
Well, we're starting to warm things up over land anyways, but of course it takes a little while longer for the water to heat up, right? The land heats up very quickly as we head into the summertime months, but it takes much longer for the water to heat up. In fact, by late July into August is when we really see the warmest temperatures for Lake Michigan. So this week, water temperatures at the surface are in the 50s. And that's important to mention because we often caution about swimming in Lake Michigan for several reasons. One of those is, well, this time of year, temperatures are still very much on the cool side, so you can run into problems swimming in just a matter of minutes in these temperatures. But where do we stand in terms of average? We're pretty close to average water temperature for this time of year. So the average is right around 50 or the low 50s for water temperatures this time of year. We're doing pretty good in terms of that warming. But again, it takes quite a while for the lake to really warm up, again, reaching its peak, especially as we get towards the August time frame. Now, something else to talk about that you hear us talk a lot about on the news is when you get certain winds and wind direction off the lake, that can lead to life-threatening waves and particularly can lead to rip currents. And that can be a big problem. We get a lot of drownings every year on Lake Michigan. So make sure before you head out to the lake, let's say it's a hot day, watch out for the cooler water temperatures and please make sure you know what the waves and the currents are doing before you step foot in the water.
And I can say from personal experience that accidentally falling into cold water from the Great Lakes is a painful experience.
Oh, yeah.
So I was, before I worked here over in Toronto, which is on Lake Ontario, of course, and I covered the Toronto International Boat Show.
Okay.
Part of that was that they pumped water into the boat show so they could have like a huge pond that they could do the little sea-doos and kayaks and have people kind of test them out and stuff. What I didn't know as I was doing the report was that that had been pumped in directly from Lake Ontario in January in Canada. I thought it'd make a funny way to end the piece by pretending to fall in.
Sure.
Had I known any of that, I would never have done it. My muscles hurt, and if I hadn't had people to pull me out of it, I might still be in there today.
Yeah.
So don't mess around with cold water.
Right.
It can be debilitating, as Tom was pointing out. We want to keep you safe. Now, don't mess around with water in general, right? We are just a little bit off of the official start of summer, but Milwaukee County leaders, they want to make sure that you and your loved ones stay safe near the water.
This year, we have trained over 150 lifeguards to help keep our pools safe and open to the community. Each of those guards have worked really hard and have completed over 60 hours of training in the pool and in the classroom before they report to their first day for more on-site training. They are trained how to be first responders and professional rescuers.
Drowning is the leading cause of death in kids between 1 to 4 years old, and the CDC says about 4,000 unintentional drownings happen every year in the United States. County Executive David Crowley says the number one rule with water safety is to never leave a child unattended near the water. Now, we do have a list of pool openings on the Fox Local mobile app if that is on your list of things to do, maybe throughout this upcoming weekend. And two, I just want to add, the lifeguards are amazing, and it's so nice to have them. Not every pool has them, not every beach or lake has them, and it's still, I mean, I have little ones too. It's up to us as parents also to always have our eyes on our kiddos.
You can't even blink because, especially in your case and in my case back in the day when you're outnumbered, 2 parents, 3 kids, it can be a bit of a challenging situation for sure. Even in those zero-depth pools, you have to always be very mindful. If you want a different way to get out of the heat, well, we're going to go to Arizona, where officials there have worked with some artists. They're working together to create some alternative ways to beat the heat. Phoenix's Office of Arts and Culture, they teamed up with the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation. They chose artist submissions from all all across the country, the artists had to devise a way to create an Instagrammable art installation, because if it isn't on the gram, does it even matter? So had to be nice to look at, but it also had to provide shade and cooling that is desperately needed.
Sombra Experiments in Shade is a temporary public art project that brings artists together with civic leaders to address extreme urban heat in Phoenix.
So the city is going to roll out the first installation, Silhouette Park, April 19th, and then they're going to roll out a new installation every weekend after that. All of these installations will be available through September. They look amazing.
They do look amazing, and really, I mean, that heat down there in the Southwest, I mean, high temperature in Phoenix today is 107.
Yes.
You know, it's this time of year where the complete opposite of us, we're always outside during the summer.
Yeah.
They are never outside during the summer.
We crave the heat.
Right.
They try to escape
so this
it.
could be very beneficial.
Right. And a great example of, art that everyone can get behind. You know, a lot of, if you're not into art, you're like, what good is that? Well, this has a purpose too.
There you go.
So I like it. We're back. Hopefully this show has a purpose. We appreciate you watching it right here on Fox Local and our Fox 6 YouTube channel. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We love when you guys get involved with the show. Send us in your pictures, ask questions. We had a great one yesterday about deer beds. We got another great one today.
We do, and this one's a little more sciencey, but I love it. Why does the weather mostly move from west to east? And this was sent in from Mary Jo in Milwaukee. And the simple answer is our jet stream, which is our upper level winds, and those normally move from west to east. Now the jet stream wiggles, it can move north, it can move south, and that depends on
Sometimes it can get all twisted up into these blocking patterns. That's when we start talking about retrograding lows that are going backward of the norm. But you're right, typically it flows from west to east, and people assume there's just one, but there are multiple jet streams.
Very true.
Yeah, at different levels of the atmosphere, also just different streams around the planet. There's a southern oscillation, there's a northern oscillation, but it all goes that way. It all goes from west to east all the way around the planet, but not always due west to due east.
Right, exactly. And it really is all thanks in part to the fact that our planet is spinning too. So as you get even more and more into the science. But yes, most of our storm systems move from west to east, unless it's a cutoff low, like Rob mentioned. Some of our storm systems that linger for days and days and just bring lots of rain, sometimes those get cut off from the jet stream. And so there's nothing to push them on their way. So that can happen too.
And we call it a jet stream, because it's like a river of air. So if you've ever stood along a river and watched, sometimes they get caught up in little eddies. It's like a cut off low, and sometimes the river does this weird winding pattern, and sometimes it's straight. So that's why. Thank you so much for that awesome question. The answer was far longer than the question. If you have a question, short, long, medium sized, just click the QR code, send that to us. Maybe you've got a picture like we had yesterday, send that to us. Anything that we can answer, we will endeavor to do that. In fact, we might even share some of our pictures too.
Exactly, and we are going to share one of our pictures, more so teammates' pictures.
But we didn't do it.
Take a look at this, though, because you probably saw it on social media. I wish Lisa was here, because I have a lot of questions.
Right.
Lisa did some fishing over the weekend, and look at this bad boy that she caught. My goodness.
Huge.
It is massive. I don't know how she pulled it out, but anyways, this is a common carp, and so all of this is from Lisa. Non-native species from Europe and Asia. It was brought intentionally to America in the 1890s as a game fish and a source of food. They can weigh up to 80 pounds and grow up to 5 feet in length. And they live an average of 20 years in the wild.
Amazing. I mean, that's an amazing fish that's not native to this area, but we have amazing fish that are native, like sturgeon. So there's a new project underway, actually, that's helping these fish, these sturgeon, move upstream of Milwaukee. Officials are especially looking to help the northern pike and the sturgeon, those big, awesome fish. So the project is at Estabrook Falls in Estabrook Park, which is where our broadcast tower is as well, and is creating a fish passage. It's hard to say. Estabrook Falls is actually the largest remaining man-made obstacle for the fish. So this passage will then help them get upstream to their spawning grounds. Sturgeon have actually been missing in the Milwaukee area for around 140 years, but we are bringing them back in a big way.
And right now, as of today, there are about 50 sturgeon in our waters, and it's an amazing story of survival. And as a Native person, I'm enrolled in the Oneida Tribe of Indians. Their story is our story, that story of survival.
I love that. Yeah, it is a story of survival indeed. And so, we need to do what we can to help them. They're amazing fish. Have you ever seen a sturgeon?
I have, and they jump.
They do jump, and they're almost like, they look prehistoric.
Yes.
Right? They just look like something that hasn't evolved, and in some cases they haven't in hundreds of years. So we're happy to be a part of bringing that back, and happy to be a part of bringing you that story. Please stay safe, spare the air out there. We'll have more throughout the day right here on Fox 6 and Fox Local.